All right. I actually would have preferred a hand of applause, so. Thank you. Someone clapped. Okay, so we're going to talk. This is a little feedback. Okay, we're going to talk about Falcor. Anyone in here excited about Falcor? This guy. All right. Woo! Let's get excited about Ajax. Okay. So yeah, my name is Brian. Deal with it. And I work at Netflix. Super fun. I'm actually originally from Salt Lake City. Grew up here. Worked for Reddit Salt Lake. Like, who here knew that Reddit had a Salt Lake office? Like, not many people, and they don't anymore. So now they don't. So, so now I'm in San Francisco. Work for Netflix, and yeah, it's really fun. So, what is Falcor? I know a lot of you are drawing comparisons because there are 3 other talks about another particular awesome piece of open source technology, and they are similar, but also very different. They scratch some different issues. So we're going to talk about what is Falcor. Falcor is thug life. I just really like animated GIFs, so that's why that one's up there. Okay, so Falcor is awesome. It lets you treat your data, whether it's remote or whether it's local, the same way. And if you stop and think about that for a second, that's really powerful, right? Like, you don't have to care, is the data there yet? Is the data coming? It's all treated the same way. And like, is it coming from the cache? Does it cache need to be invalidated and then gone and fetched? Like, that's something that Falcor all worries about for you. And again, for me, that was the huge just moment. It was like, yes, like this is the thing I want to use. It's been in development at Netflix for about 2 years. Yeah, 2 years, something like that. And so it is actually a pretty mature technology. Like, it's pretty battle tested. It's running on Netflix. And other than maybe the Facebook guys, like, not many people are running at Netflix scale. So like, it works at Netflix scale, so that's usually pretty good. Yeah, it's going to take care of data fetching, data caching. Actually, the caching layer is really, really cool. Like, you can kind of like pre-populate the cache. You can go out and fetch things, and if you ask for it again, it's just going to pull it straight out of the cache. But like, if you have some mix of like some of it's in the cache, some of it's not, it'll pull out of that, but then fetch the other things. It's really, really smart about how it does its caching. You can do things like time to live, which is also really cool. Like, this data is only going to be fresh for like 30 minutes. After that, please refresh. And yeah, we've been using it for a while, and it's really fun. It doesn't really care what library you're using. It's not tied to React, so if you're using something else, it works. In fact, that's what they actually pulled me into to work on some of the Falcor stuff. Is like, hey, we had this great thing, now make it work with React. And it's like, just shove them together, like, like now kiss, right? Like something like that. That's what I got called in to do. So I released a gist last week, and then it got some circulation of, and I'm actually going to pull it apart right here, so you can see how you can make Falcor and React play nice together. Shoot. Okay, and it is not a flying weasel. And if you don't get that joke, then don't ask me, because legally I can't tell you. Okay. Okay. I'm pretty sure legal's going to be pretty upset that I still made that joke. Okay, so here. Just got like a data structure. Like, this is meant to be simple. This is to demonstrate how you would just pull data out of, like, using accessors in JavaScript, right? So let's see the Falcor way of doing it. Okay, so we have a model. That's kind of hard to see, isn't it? Anyway, so you make a new Falcor model. Right now we're just throwing things in the cache, but that could be coming from the server. It could be coming from local storage. It could be coming from session storage. However you choose to do that, it's kind of up to you. And then that's what you do down at the bottom. You use model, get value, and then something, right? So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, right? And you just treat all of your data this way, okay? So we're going to talk about paths for a second. So you see where it says get value, and it has like that string that looks like a JavaScript accessor method. There's a billion different ways you can give that path. I realize the top 2 are the same after I made this slide. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways. And so that makes it really easy, right? Like, if you have a string, you can concatenate them together. I actually almost always use the bottom one, just like an array of strings. And that seems to be pretty easy for me. So yeah, paths. Look just like look just like normal object accessors. You can also give it ranges, which is kind of nice, right? Like, I need 0 to 9. Or like, you can also give it some other things like multiple properties if you obviously, right? Like if you're retrieving a user, you want just the username, you want a bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's all built in. There's also some other really cool stuff that you can do. This is called JSON Graph. Is the name of this, I don't want to say query language, but yeah, kind of the query language to Falcor. And the nice thing about JSON Graph, it is just strictly JSON. Like there's nothing, we use some things like refs and some other things to have special meanings, but it's like it'll pass a JSON linter. So pretty cool. So Falcor and React, like now kissing. Allows your computer to declare its own data dependencies, or it allows your components, sorry, not computer. This is really powerful, and I feel like my thunder has been stolen since we've already seen someone else talk about something like this. But as you can see, these are convergent ideals. And like I think the really powerful thing is like we didn't talk about this with Facebook at all. Like we both arrived at these ideas individually. So I think that can kind of give you some merits. Like these two really big companies solving big problems came to these same solutions. And this alleviates the data tunneling problem. In fact, let's talk about the data tunneling problem. It's one of my least favorite parts about React, but at the same time, it's also kind of cool because of what it demonstrates. Anyway, we're going to build this really quick, kind of just in our heads. This beautiful website. This is the new front end for Netflix. I particularly like the plots, right? Prison law, politics law, apocalypse law. Yeah. So. This is why I'm the chief architect at Netflix. Just kidding, I'm not. So if we're looking at like how you would build this as just like in the components, right? Like you have a movie list, right? Movie list has a bunch of movies, and then the movies have a title, year, and plot, right? Kind of makes sense, right? If you want to take just another look to, right? Title, plot, there's a list of movies, there's like a movie component, right? So. Cool. So you have a movie list. Movie list has it just needs a list of movies to iterate over. It doesn't really need anything more than that. And then because we're in React, you need the key, or else the React tools are going to yell at you. So you need the keys needed there, or the IDs needed there for the keys. Okay. Then you have the movies. The movies really need nothing of their own. They're just a container of other components, right? But you want like a movie component so that you can just like throw it on the screen. Okay. And then you have these titles, years, plots. And those all need their respective data, right? Kind of, I hope we follow. Anyone not following? Sorry, maybe go to ngconf. Just kidding. I'm really sorry. There's some ngconf organizers in here. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, this is like the least fun part of React, right? Like, I have data up here. I have to pass it down through this component, down through this component, and down through this component. Like, it's powerful because you can like very easily see your data flow, right? But it's kind of a pain because every component has to kind of have that context of like what's going on right now, right? So like the piping part of this is the less fun part. This here, like this is the most fun part, right? Like we want to be in the components, writing the components, doing fun stuff. So. Let's see how you would do this with Falcor, using its kind of declarative way that I invented in my spare time. So we got the plot right there, and so we have this query static object. This probably looks familiar. Again, someone stole my thunder. Just kidding, they invented it. I just kind of followed along a little bit. So you have queries, and then you just have like a movies method, and it just declares like the plot just needs the plot. But say it needed the year, so you just put comma year in there as well, right? Okay, hopefully we're following. We're going to now the movies list, and it's going to have the title, the year, and the plot. And if you look down in the queries, guess what it's doing? It just goes down to its children that it knows it has, and it just grabs all of its queries and just calls an underscore union on them. Pretty straightforward, right? There's no black magic here. There's no mix-ins or anything like that. Okay, let's go to now the movie list. The part that's important is in the component did mount. So you got model.get, and you're grabbing a range, 0 to 9. That can be any range. So I mean, pagination is very easy with Falcor because of ranges. And then again, you're just calling a union on the queries from the movie and the ID, right? So pretty straightforward, right? Like you're just building up. There's nothing here that's truly groundbreaking. So it's magic. I think it's really cool, right? And so if you want to talk about like tunneling back down to get the data down where it needs, you just use pick, right? Hopefully most of us are familiar with pick from underscore. So you just provide an array, and it's just going to go pick out only the properties that it needs from the parent, right? Because the parent at this point is going to know about like the plot, the year, and everything like that. But you give this array as like, hey, I only need year, and so it's only going to pass down year, right? So I think that's a pretty powerful way to do it. And then we're using the spread operator, which is from ES6. Someone else talked about it yesterday, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. If you don't know what the spread is, go check it out, though. It's really cool. So what becomes really cool about this is, say like we're doing like some sort of different kind of display in the title. Let's say we also want to show the year there, right? I just go into the title component and say, I also need year in this component. And guess what? It's just there. It's just magically appears there. You don't have to go through and say, OK, now your parent needs to know that you need this. Now you need to know that you need this. And like you don't need to go through this data tunneling problem. Because these queries are kind of being built up as you go, it's just kind of available. Or say you're not fetching it from the API, right? If you just put in, I don't know, ratings. Say like you're going to show ratings, and that's not part of what you're already querying. You just throw in ratings, and guess what? Now your API is querying it. So no black magic, right? There is no external code being written here. There's no mix-ins. We are using no helper methods other than just what's already on Lodash, which I imagine most of you probably already have in your app. OK? You can still use these components without using their queries, right? Because they're just declaring what they need. You can still just pass them in, and it doesn't actually have to come from the API, which is pretty cool. And if you don't like the way I did it, just hack on it. Like you already understand, like this is it. I could just end the presentation here. Actually, I just might. OK? Mic drop. Just kidding. So like hopefully you're just sitting there. Go. OK. And like at the beginning of the presentation, I was like, I don't know about this Falcor business. And then I showed you. And I was like, mind blown, like, right? Like, I think it's really cool. The first time I did this, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is just so much better than what I've been doing. And I got really excited about it. And I just, like, that actually happened. This is actually autobiographical. Cool, I'm actually going through these slides really quickly. Awesome. But we'll talk a little bit more about the Falcor server. I wasn't going to talk about this too much. It's kind of hard to, like, Falcor is kind of a big thing, and like I don't have 3 talks to talk about it. I just have 1. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, and I wanted to really talk about the React specific implementation of it, because I think that's what's exciting to us as front-end developers. Most of us are not working too much on the server part. But if you want to use Falcor, you are going to have to go talk to your backend team. It's like, hey, I need just this one endpoint that does everything. That's kind of a hard sell. I understand. So I'll just give you kind of the, I don't know, kind of the brief pitch, right? So it's very RESTful. It's not, it's meant to work with a RESTful type API where things are being get, put, deleted, right? Those kind of CRUD operations. It's not to say that Falcor can't handle other kind of things, but that's what it's certainly optimized to do, okay? So it's best to use to retrieve small bits of data at a time. Yeah, so it's not meant to like, let's go grab the entire world, bring it into Falcor, and then do it. Because one thing that you'll find with Falcor is actually expecting to grab, I'm going to say discrete, but like specific objects, right? So it's not like you say, hey, go out and grab everything that is a movie, right? There's actually not a way to query in Falcor for that. I mean, I'm not going to quite assert that you can, but it's not the best way to do it. Falcor is actually going to expect you to query for, hey, give me movies 0 through 40. Now, if you have something like, let's say it's like related movies on Netflix, because that's, I think about everything in terms of movies now. If you have like related movies and you have like this group of data that you want to get, there actually is a way to query for that. And you can say this is an atom, meaning, atoms. You can't split atoms, except you can. But these atoms you can't split. I want this atom of data, and you can declare that beforehand. It's like, this is an atom of data. This is meant to be grabbed as an entire group, whether that's 10 pieces, 5 pieces. So there is a way to do it. You just kind of have to preemptively think about that. And like, I'll be honest, this was written for Netflix's use case, right? Like, we have thousands of movies and TV shows, And so we don't want to grab the world at once. We want to be able to paginate very quickly so that we're only grabbing the necessary data. So that's probably way more context than you wanted on that, but there you go. OK, so it's not actually too terrible to implement as well. If you're using Node, which I imagine many of you are, done. Like we've already implemented it in both Happy and Express. I don't imagine many of you are using many other things than that. Obviously Restify, because Netflix, everything's on Restify. I'm currently finishing up on the Go implementation. I don't know if we'll see if it's good enough to release, because I don't write Go. Or maybe you don't want me to write Go. So yeah. So let's take a look at what that architecture looks like. OK, pulling straight off the Falcor docs here. So if you want to get even more context on this, I would encourage you to look at the docs. They're pretty good. Please help us make them better. So again, this probably looks pretty familiar to you. You have the client, right? And it has the view, and then it has like the Falcor models. And inside of the models, there's going to be some caches, right? But like if the model discovers like, hey, I don't have this in the cache, it's going to go out to its HTTP data source. You can define what that is, where it goes. It's going to go to this middle, model.json, wherever that ends up being, probably on your server. And then that sends out these JSON graph queries to the data source middleware. So this is going to be something like Falcor router or any one of those implementations that you choose to do. If you're feeling adventurous, please help us do things like the Python and the Ruby one. And then it's going to go out to the data source, get that from the data source service layer. And the nice thing, kind of again, about this, we're Netflix. We're always talking about how we use microservices and how we like it. It doesn't really matter where the service is, because like it's going to come into this data source middleware, and then for us, we go out to like 1,000 different microservices to grab everything that we need, right? And this implementation lends itself very, very well to the microservice architecture. And yeah, like I'm from Netflix. I'm going to talk about microservices, like law microservices, right? Like you can't hear Netflix talk, and someone's not going to talk about microservices. So sorry, I had to just like slide it in there. I said, use microservices. Just kidding. Don't use it unless you have an implementation that needs it. Okay. I have a lot of disclaimers when I talk. Okay, so Falcor does a lot of other really cool things. Again, this is a 25-minute slot. I don't have enough time to go over all the awesome things. I just kind of tried to give you like the highlight reel of like, someone's like, you're going to switch your entire Ajax way of thinking to doing this. I typically don't give up on kind of hard battle-tested ideas very quickly. But like, yeah, this is kind of like the highlight reel of what won me over why I wanted to use Falcor. Anyway, so I showed you most of like the get methodology, right? And we didn't really talk too much about updates. Updates really end up like like Falcor has a way of doing it, but it really just ends up being pretty restful, right? You just say like, hey, I have a rating. This rating went from 3.2 to 5.0 because it's House of Cards and it's awesome. And yeah, like it's just kind of like these put post kind of updates. So that should just feel really familiar. I didn't talk about it because it's not terribly exciting. It's really smart caching. Like that's probably one of the biggest things that once you end up using it is like caching is hard. It's a really hard problem. And we kind of solved most of it for you. So that's also really, really exciting. And we're working on like the real-time story. That's forthcoming. That's certainly on our docket to make better. We're working on some of the developer ergonomics to make it better so that it's even more friendly and easy to approach. But I think from what I showed you, it's pretty approachable right now. It's available as of last week. I was pushing. It was like, if I have to give this talk and it's not effing open source, I'm going to be so frustrated. It's like I get all these people super hyped to use it, and it's like, and you can't use it. No, but it is now open source as of last week. So please get out there, go out and try it. It's really fun. Yeah, so we're working on the real-time story. Other things we're working on is, like if you have two users looking at the same piece of data, one user updates it, the other one needs to know about it, using like the cache and validation strategy to send down like, hey, this is now stale data. Next time that you need to get data, you need to come back and fetch this, stuff like that. So yeah, Brian Holt, HoltBT on Twitter, and yeah, that's Falcor. Thank you.